Everyone's interested in what is the market doing? Well, the market does what it does, and sometimes the market gives us a heads up as to a correction is coming or an opportunity is coming where the market has been correcting for a period of time. Then there are times like the current one where certain markets continue up, basically the broader markets moving up at different levels, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100, the Dow in a much more slower way. The Russell has begun to kick in and the transports are doing nothing. But we look at these internal gauges. That's what we're looking at here to see what's happening under the hood. When I'm done, I'm going to take a look at the FANG stocks, and then I'm going to look at individual stocks. What I've got on the screen here, the top here is a breadth internal called a McClellan oscillator. And what does this tell us? Well, what it tells us is what everyone has been saying primarily is that there's a few stocks moving the market, and there was a comment on social media the other day when Dan and I are doing our pre-market review. Someone said, you know what, this market has been one in which it's become more difficult to really make a lot. And what does that mean? Well, adding to positions. Clearly, this was a more experienced follower of our pre-market commentary, always presenting ideas, which is great that we share with everyone. So it's become more difficult to find things. Well, let's just talk about throwing the dart, so to speak, and everything moving up, because it's not. And what you see here is this McClellan oscillator just whipping back and forth around the zero line, which, without looking at all the individual sectors, it tells us that there's a fewer stocks that are really moving the market. Now, from a longer term perspective, we look at when the market has been moving up and say everything's moving together and it reaches an extreme. We need a measurement of that. We can't guess at it. So the percentage of stocks above the 200-day, not even close to reaching an extreme. So another way of telling us that there's fewer stocks that are moving things up. Nonetheless, the broader markets move up. Also, on a shorter term basis, the percentage of stocks that are above the 40-day moving average, they're just chopping back and forth. What's helpful about this? Well, it tells us historically when risk is rising or opportunity is rising, when it goes way down like it did in April. And it also tells us when we need to put our hopes, perspective, expectations in check because not too much is happening right now. From a very long-term perspective, this McClellan oscillator, which is a longer-term view of this McClellan oscillator, we can see that it made a sharp move up in April. And one of the things to look for with internals, and you can see it here in a more jagged way, right? This is just a smoothed McClellan, so to speak. When they move really fast, that means everything, pretty much everything, was moving in lockstep together, and that's powerful and suggests it's going to go up. Well, shortly after that, it started to base, and then it went up, made a new high, and it came back down, and you might view this as kind of like a head and shoulders top, so to speak. I don't know that it's giving us a warning of something more dire correction, but you can see how it's just hanging down here, and it's kind of rolling over a bit, and even on Friday, where the markets were up, this clicked down. So this tells us, again, under the hood, things aren't great. Interest rates have been moving lower. That's what these all are. The 5-year, the 10-year, the 30-year, and the 13-week. And that helps support the broader markets, lower interest rates. They flipped up at the end of the week there. These red and black lines, I should say, are options expirations. The black ones are quarterly. And when we have an options expiration, many times the market takes a little bit of a breather, a turning point. This has been advancing basically in a very fluid manner, some jagged things, but the options expiration heads up is a good piece of information for active traders to tell us, hey, there might be a bit of a change here. Here that made a bottom, here it made a top. This was a continuation, this was a short-term top. And now that the market has been moving up into this option expiration, and the strongest things are short-term extended, might pull back a little bit. So let's take a look at the big stocks. right? The Magnificent Seven, the FANG stocks. So Apple came back. It was correcting for the longest time and is coming up to a resistance area in $250. Expect it to stall there, but this moving up looks great from here to here. Let's see what it does at resistance. Amazon has been doing nothing. It's still in an uptrend, rising 20, rising 50, rising 200. We don't want to bet against that, but there's no pattern here that tells us to act at this point in time. But this is where we know there's going to be some buyers. Google has just been on fire, especially since the news came out about it not having the Chrome platform taken away from them, and that has been grinding higher. That's a plus. Tesla came back from this long consolidation. Here's where it bottomed. This arrow here is where we were trading it around here, and it made a nice move, and then it went dead for several months, and it broke out. That looks great. Should be buying on a pullback, maybe into this gap fill, give or take. Meta been consolidating its gain. That moved up quite a bit, and it's just been doing nothing for a while, but it's not harming the market. So it's basically a way of not putting any pressure on it since it's a big cap stock. Netflix, that came down on its earnings. This has been going sideways. It's got opposing pivot highs and pivot lows. Nothing to do there but set alerts and see which way it might go. Since it's down at the pivot lows, I'm interested to see if buyers want to take it higher up to there or not. Patterns like this are good for credit spreads, iron condors, if there's premium, and a lot of times there is with these higher cap stocks. Microsoft is probably the best looking one that have the potential to move up from here. Notice that big red bar suggested it would go lower, and it recouped, maybe because of options expiration, but you've got another red bar ignored, and it had a good close on Friday. So I'm interested to see if this can move up during the week. NVIDIA been consolidating gains for a couple of months now, going nowhere. Some competition from others. We'll just see what it's going to do in the future. Now, as we compress all of those, and I throw in the Magnificent Seven here, you see that's in a nice uptrend. It's pushed up to new all-time highs. And how is it doing that when some of these, they're just not doing anything? Well, the ones that aren't doing anything aren't giving any harm. And so the ones that are moving up are helping this to push higher. It's getting short-term extended. There was a correction bar there. We'll see what this week brings. Now, let's take a look at some individual stocks, because while we see the market it's just kind of flat under the hood, so to speak, but there's a lot of good-looking stocks out there. How do we find them? Scans. So I've got a short-term scan here. I call it winners. And then I can sort that, like I've sorted them here, by showing me the ones that are touching the 20-period moving average, and they should be in uptrends. And so I've got this one here. Well, let's start at the top. So that's kind of flat. I'm not interested in that, but it's still strong. Moving averages, one above the other. Prices are above it, but erratic. Not interested. This one here coming off of a low, maybe could go up. If it had what I'd call a correction bar or a gap reversal, a candle that said that this is an action point, where this is not. Pull back to the 20. Set an alert. Rising 20. Should go up. Basing. There's the one that we started with, pulling back to the 20. This one is sideways. This was in a strong uptrend. Now, I could go through all of these. There's 288 of them here. I don't have time for all of that, but some nicer looking ones for this week. Black Sky Technology. You can see the symbol there, BKSY. And let me just throw this on here for a second so there's no thoughts about it. You can't see it. Let me find the thing here. Put a watermark on there. And there you go. All right. So nice bottoming pattern. Got back above the moving averages. Breakout on Friday. Maybe it forms a 1, 2, 3. This one's pulling back to major support. So it's not an action point right now. It pulled back. Right. This is residential construction with those interest rates that I showed you having moved up. Put some pressure on this. See if it can flip up. Basing. Nothing to do. Set an alert. Let's see if it can break out this week. Frog, a little messy, but a 1, 2, 3 with resistance there. I've got an alert above here to see if it can get moving. The weekly is at an uptrend. It's got a bottoming tail bar, which I refer to as a correction bar since it traded under the low. This one is pulling back. I want to keep an eye on it to see if it begins to flatten out. And I've got a 65-minute here. This is how I utilize a longer-term intraday time frame to see when it begins to base and moving away from resistance, where even as a day trading opportunity, this could set something up. It's not ready yet. This one broke out. Wide range bar. I mean, needs to consolidate a little bit, but looking to the left, there's nothing to stop it from going higher. So I'm interested in that from a swing if I can get a 1, 2, 3, but also from a day trading perspective that this broke out, maybe pulls back on a 5-minute chart. And it's something that I'll be talking about in my upcoming presentations. I have several. I think there's 2 this month, another in October, and there's another one coming up, which I was asked to do last week. Joby broke out. Looks great. Maybe we get a 1, 2, 3, pulls back. Again, intraday, you could be watching this pullbacks towards some support on a 5-minute chart. Watch it start bottom. From a swing trading perspective, you'd have to put the stop under the low, but maybe we get a 1, 2, 3 where it consolidates and then pushes higher. SMR, breakout, another one, could be a 1, 2, 3. I could use it for day trading. It'd be on my list, and it's got lots of volume. So we'll see if we can get a little consolidation to see if that can move higher. This one hasn't moved yet, but set an alert above these highs. Wide range bar up. It tried to break down, came back up. Bullish price action at resistance, should be able to go up. And SL, bottoming action. Went up on Thursday, stalled on Friday. It's got room to go up. This is what we call a void. Price correction, time correction, can move back up. Might be good for credit spreads. You can check option tables, see if they're liquid. Any kind of a spread down here. And to take a quick look at the broader markets. And so spiders, as I showed you, the options expiration, been advancing very, very well. The Qs, pretty much the same. Short-term extended. IWM joined the party. That moved up. It was a pretty erratic price action here in July and August, but that started moving again. It peekabooed up to a new all-time high. And the transports just doing a lot of nothing. It's not going down, but if this could flip up, we'd have maybe all markets firing on all cylinders, and at that point, maybe the breadth would start to improve, and we'll just have to see what happens. So we're monitoring the broader markets. We're taking the top-down approach to see sectors within those broader markets and individual stocks. What are they doing to present us with opportunities? As always, if you have questions, email me, Greg at Master Trader. And don't forget, sign up for those presentations. They'll be great, and you'll learn a lot.